प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। की जय। समवेता भक्तवृंद की जय। और प्रेमानंदे
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glory to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Hare.
Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutare Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. We are reading, studying, and discussing Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, Adi Leela, Chapter 9. And here we are at text number 37.
একলা মালাকার আমি কত ফল খাবো না দিয়া বা এই ফল আর কি করিব।
I am the only gardener. If I did not distribute these fruits, what shall I do with them? How many fruits can I alone eat? Purport. Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu produced so many fruits of devotional service that they must be distributed all over the world. Otherwise, how could he alone relish and taste each and every fruit? The original reason that Lord Sri Krishna descended as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was to understand Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna and to taste that love. The fruits of the tree of devotional service were innumerable, and therefore he wanted to distribute them unrestrictedly to everyone. Srila Rupa Goswami writes, Anarpita charim chirat karunayavatirna kalau samarpayitanganutojvalarasam svabhakti shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaya Khandare Spuratu Va Sachinandana. There were many, I think that's previous, it says precious, okay, precious, incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but none were so generous, kind, and magnanimous as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. For he distributed the most confidential aspect of devotional service, namely the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. Therefore, Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada desires that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu live perpetually in the hearts of all devotees, for thus they can understand and relish the loving affairs of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Stapitang Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupakata Vahyam Dadati Shapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're continuing our description and discussion as described by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami of this desire tree of bhakti, of devotional service, that is represented Lord Chaitanya as the trunk and the gardener. So we've read about many aspects and characteristics of the tree. So I'd like to kind of, if we could sum up or point out again some of those characteristics which you might remember about this tree of devotional service. Anybody remember anything?
Lord Chaitanya personally became the trunk, stem, and the trunk, the root also.
No, he was not the root. He was the trunk. You're correct. It was the trunk.
Trunk and what else? He's gardener.
He's the gardener. He's the gardener and the trunk. And there were roots. What were the roots?
Roots were Madhavendra Puri.
There were the 8 sannyasis, yeah. Paramananda Puri, etc. All the different sannyasis, Keshava Bharati, Brahmananda. Yeah, they're the roots of the tree. And there were 2 main branches of this tree.
Lord Nityananda and Advaita Acharya.
Yeah, and then from them came many branches and sub-branches, right. So there are certain qualities of the tree, if you remember. I was trying to meditate on this tree. Go ahead. Kavita has something.
Sorry. I remembered that this tree is still yet moving.
Yeah, this is a tree. Ordinarily, trees are stuck in one place, but this tree moves. So this is a kind of an unusual thing. I don't see trees moving so much in the world, right? So this is a very, very special tree. They moved the tree, Lord Krishna moved the tree from the heavenly planets to Dwarka, much to the anger of Lord Indra. That was Parijata. And that was very wonderful, but this tree is even more wonderful. How does the movement take place from Navadvip to Puri to Vrindavan to New York to Philadelphia? How is the moving? Is the tree walking or flying, or I don't know, but we know we've discussed that it's moving. In the northwestern part of India, you have Kechari. You know what a Kechari is? Kechari is Kechari, not Kechari.
Yeah, it is a dish. Just mix all the things like the rice.
No. That's something else. Kechari is a witch. Kechari is a witch. Kechari, like Putana was a Kechari. K, not K. K. So sometimes, at least in the olden days, you'd see witches traveling on the uprooted branches of trees with the roots following, right? So that was a moving tree, but this is not. This is something different here. How this tree is moving, I don't know, but we know it's moving. What's that?
Isn't it devotees make it move?
It's not described. So those are something we have to ask when you go back to the spiritual world, or you see a highly advanced person. Then you can ask. Then you have to find out how this tree is moving. But it's certainly moving by the will of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees. What other aspects? Very good. What other aspects?
There are fruits on every branch, and they've compared it to the fig tree.
Yeah, there's so many fruits, unlimited fruits. So many fruits are coming here and here and here and here and here and here. And what else about this tree? So many fruits. Lord Chaitanya is saying, I can't take care of them all. Just like if, when there's a harvest and you have, hundreds and hundreds of fruits of apples or pears, if you don't distribute them, what happens?
They rot.
Yeah. So we don't want that to happen to these fruits. It doesn't say that they'll rot here, but anyway.
And everybody is fit to receive these fruits.
Very good, very good. So Lord Chaitanya wanted these fruits to be distributed to anybody without consideration. What was the only consideration that was important in distributing the fruit?
Laudyam,
Yeah.
the eagerness to receive it, yes.
And that they would take it. That they, people, okay, if you don't want it, you can't have it. That's it. If you want it, you can have it, right? That's it. If you don't want it. So this was for the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, Mlechas, Javanas, everybody, the Chandalas, the Democrats and Republicans, people who are clean and sober, and people who are addicted, people who are meat eaters and vegetarians and vegans, everybody. The only qualification is they accept it, because by accepting that fruit, then all good qualities and devotion will develop. So that's the principle in spiritual life, is that first you get someone to accept Krishna consciousness or remembering Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, and all the rules and regulations will follow. So these are yes, another important quality of that. So if they're like Kaivalya Prabhu said, if you're eager to take it, if you take it, then you're qualified. That's all. That's the only qualification. What other aspect of this?
And I think at the very end, he ordered all of us. He said, I cannot do this all by myself. I order all of you to...
Yeah, he said he had that order, not just kind of suggest, or say, if you want to. He ordered. That's just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja. You surrender unto me, I'll protect you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So in a similar way, Lord Chaitanya is requesting and ordering, as you said, for his devotees and everybody, not just his, but everybody, to take these fruits and distribute them. There's some more qualities of these fruits that are pretty amazing, if you remember. Because I cheated, because I looked over the verses ahead of time so I could remember them. So, okay. So one thing is that these fruits, one fruit was more valuable than all the riches in the world combined. Remember that? Just one fruit. That's pretty amazing. And another aspect of this tree is that it's alaukiki, which means it's really wonderful. Being representative of objects in the spiritual world, where everything is wonderful. Here, things are not so wonderful, but everything there in the spiritual world is really wonderful. And some of the wonders of this tree are that each part of the tree is capable of doing the functions of every other part. Just like we hear of Krishna, Angani yasya saklendriya vittimanti pashyanti panti kalayanti chiram jaganti. All the different parts of Krishna's body work fully, so he can eat with his ears and see with his toes and accept things with his back. So similarly, this tree of devotional service, all the parts of the tree can do the functions of other parts. So we give the example sometimes of You know, if you want to water the leaves and branches of a tree, what do you have to do?
What are the roots?
Yeah, that's the method. You water the root of the tree and all the leaves and the branches of the tree. But for this particular tree, that apparently doesn't apply. How's that?
Because root is not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, here root is Madhavendra Puri. So we have to here water the trunk, not the root.
But as it said that all the different parts do the functions of everything. So in this particular tree, you can water the leaves, you can water the branches, you can water the roots, you can water the trunk, and all because they all do that function. So this is another part of the tree that we're talking about. And then, so this is a different special, very, very special species of tree. And then there's one other thing that when Lord Chaitanya was describing the distribution of the fruits of the tree, he mentioned something about, if you remember, that he would give it at no price. Do you remember that? He wasn't charging anything for the fruit, which is very interesting. What do you make of that? What do you make anything of that? Because it specifically says he was distributing them at no price. What do you make of that? Anybody?
Because that's mercy.
Yes. And any particular examples you might give?
Oh. Lord Chaitanya himself and Srila Prabhupada.
Okay. So sometimes when people got initiated or got a certain mantra, they would have to pay a fee to get the mantra, right? Did you know that? It's very famous that certain gurus would charge a fee for the mantra that they would give to their followers. As far as I know, and we don't have any examples, that Srila Prabhupada wasn't charging any fee for chanting this mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra that he distributed. Is that right? And not only for the mantra. So what about for things like prasadam, which is kind of along with the fruit? No, not charging a fee. One time in New York, we used to get 400 or 500 people on Sunday for the Sunday feast at the big temple in 55th Street. I think Caitanya Prabhu used to come there sometimes. Yes. So then, the administrator thought, well, let's from now on we'll charge $10 for the people to come. So then next week, went down to 100 people, 50 people. I'm not saying you can't charge it, but anyway, Lord Chaitanya distributed his mercy, these fruits of devotional service, without asking a price, because really, this is love. Business is business, and love is something else. Love you do from the core of your heart. You give something and you accept something out of love. So if giving and accepting is on the same level. So he gives this transcendental mantra. He gives this mercy in the form of devotees, in the form of the deities, in the form of the holy name, and prasadam. And if somebody is inspired and wants to give in response, that's loving exchange. So Lord Krishna wants to set up that kind of exchange of love. He's not really interested in a business relationship with us, but he's interested in the love. And love means no requirement from your side. It's a spontaneous appreciation. Another fact is that, we used to have restaurants in various temples. They still do in some temples. So sometimes the city or the state would come and check on the tax situation of those restaurants, because in Pennsylvania you don't pay tax on food, you know that?
Yeah.
But in some states you do, like in New York you do. So, okay, so what about paying, you have all these customers come for your restaurant, and what about paying sales tax? What about that? What do you think? So we didn't pay sales tax. You know why? Because we said, we don't require a payment. It's a suggested donation. If they give a donation, very nice. But we won't refuse someone if they don't give a donation. You follow? It's suggested donation. Same thing with the books. Same thing with the books. It's a loving exchange. You give somebody a book, sometimes they won't have anything, but they really want it, give it to them. And sometimes they will want to give, and sometimes they give more than the cost price of the book, or double or triple or something. But so it's a loving exchange. It's not in that sense. It's not you get around the taxing question too, because it's something different. It's on the transcendental level. Then Srila Prabhupada cites this particular verse, and it's interesting. He says the original reason for Lord Krishna descending as Caitanya Mahaprabhu was to understand Srimati Radharani's love. So we knew there are many reasons. What are some other reasons that they came, that Lord Chaitanya came?
To give freely the love of Godhead.
No, that's yes. Give freely love of Godhead, sure. And
that's the external reason.
To save the fallen soul.
Yes, popularize the Hare Krishna, right? Teach the Yuga Dharma, all these things. But here, it's Srila Prabhupada is focusing the original reason. That's his reason. The internal reason is for Lord Krishna. He wanted to understand Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna and taste that love. And in the process, he was distributing. He distributed that ability through the tree of devotional service to everyone, given the opportunity to everyone around the world. And this Rupa Goswami verse is very nice. Let's look at it a little bit carefully. Anadapita charim. Anadapita means not given, done before. Or chirat means in a long time. Not been given in a long time or never before. So long, we're talking about billions of years before. How many years is a day of Brahma? Who's got your calculators?
100 years. 100 years.
So 4.32 billion years, right? Billion, B as in boy. So we're about halfway through the day of Brahma. And then once in a day of Brahma, Lord Krishna comes, and Lord Chaitanya, once in a day. So once every, and there's a night of the same duration, right? So once every 8,640,000,000 years. So not a long, practically not ever before, not in a very, very, very long time. This opportunity has not been given. In this mercy incarnation, mercy avatar in the age of Kali. Samarpitam anutojvala rasam. Ujvala ras. Ujvala ras means what? Ujvala. The most wonderful.
Right.
Ujvala. What is that rasa, that taste? His own Swabhakti Shriya, the treasure of his own devotional service, especially the conjugal ras mentioned in the purport here. We sing, that song, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Brindaban. That one of the later lines that says, Jai Ujvala Ras, Sarva Rasa. Yeah, that same point here. So Lord Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya, is distributing this topmost mellow of devotional service to anybody who'll take it. Hari, that Lord Hari, Purata Sundara Dyuti Kadamba Sandipita. He's shining in this molten golden this golden complexion. Sada Hridaya Kundare Spurato Vasa Chinandana. May that Lord Chaitanya, who's ever respect gold, be always situated in the core of your heart. It's a blessing to us, so that we can appreciate this gift that he's giving of the ability to understand this level of devotional service to Krishna in the mood of the gopis. Questions, comments on this verse?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So in the introduction, I missed your classes, 1 or 2 first. So introduction, I was saying that. So it said like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a tree itself, tree and the trunks. So tree means the complete tree, including the root
Yes.
and everything, right? So
Yes. Okay.
so watering
And the gardener also. And the
Yeah,
gardener.
So watering the root, even that means watering the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I mean the root, he was root also, he was fruit also, and everything. So
Yes. Yes. Thank you. But you can also water the branches if you want
yeah.
in this tree, not regular trees.
Hi, Krishna.
Haribol.
This verse makes me like reflect on, that loving aspect of the transcendental gardener, giving everything for free, unconditionally, and really free, not, a forced donation or, you have to pay to get this, or any of the things that we notice in the world as business or aspects of the opposite of unconditional love. But then again, blessings are being offered at the same time. So that it's really beautiful.
Yes. Yes. And when I mentioned about that no donation is, there's a suggested donation, you pointed out very nicely that it's not that we force the people to give a donation, but if somebody wants to give a donation out of the core of their heart, out of love, that's very nice. We don't reject that, but it's not, as you pointed out, it's not a forced thing. Dronacharya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Vishnugada Prabhu. So there was a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He talks about Lord Nityananda, and he has a marketplace of the holy name, and he's distributing love of God. And he says that he's giving it out, but there's a price, that to receive the love of God, one has to, that the price is one's faith. Shraddha. So how would we understand that in this connection?
That seems contradictory, right?
Well, I was thinking that you give it for free, but if one actually wants to receive love of God, there has to be some action on the side of the recipient, and that action seems to be one has to develop faith or make some level of commitment, internal commitment to actually experience the love of God. Would that, like if you give somebody a book, whether they give a donation or not necessarily will love of God sprout up in them. They'd actually have to make some level of commitment to the process. Would that be true? I'm trying to understand how they would be connected.
Well, Lord Chaitanya in this chapter is emphasizing the quality of not that that's being distributed, that love of God is being distributed to everybody without a price. So then you quoted Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, what's the price? Shraddhavan yang he, faith. Okay, so I don't think these two things are contradictory. The first part is you got to accept the fruit. Once you accept the fruit, then after time, that faith, the lolium and etc., can develop. It might develop in a day, a week, a month, a year, but it will develop once you accept. And what does it mean to accept that that fruit? Well, generally we say, chant Hare Krishna. Please chant Hare Krishna. And that is the beginning. That's the beginning. And it's not, nobody's ever saying, oh, so just do nothing, sit down and don't perform any devotional service. You just got the fruit, that's it. No, but once you accept it, then those things will naturally develop. So I don't think the two things are contradictory, but it's just a matter of points in time, if that makes sense.
Yes, no, that does make sense. Thank you.
You know, Lord Chaitanya, when he was speaking with, was it the Prakashananda Saraswati? He gave the example of the, no, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He gave the example of the, you know, the bone of an animal is contaminated, although the conch shell is put on the altar. And the stool of an animal is contaminated, but cow dung is pure. So these two things are there in the Vedas. So people say, well, they throw up their hands. We throw, oh, it's not understandable. It's all mishmash. We don't understand. But Lord Chaitanya said, no, they're both correct. And he was using that example to illustrate that in the Vedic literature, there are parts that describe Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead as impersonal, and there's parts that describe him as personal. Yeah. The stool of an animal is impure, but cow dung is pure. So both are correct. Both are true. Both are true. The Supreme Lord walks and he doesn't walk. He's near and he's far away as well. So he walks, but he doesn't walk. Pashyati, achakshu. He sees, but he has no eyes. So how do you reconcile those things? So, yeah. This looks like Krishna Kirtan Prabhu has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we are speaking same thing, but two different aspects. Even when we are chanting Mahaprasadi Govinde, also Mahaprasadi Govinde, we of honor the prasadam. It says that, you know, those who have amassed very few pious activities, their faith in Mahaprasad, Sri Govinda, the holy name, the Vaishnavas, is never born. So giving freely love of Godhead by Lord Chaitanya and devotees, that is true. Is available, but also not necessarily recipients will appreciate the value of it. So those who appreciate, you know, they have some security as well. So both pointed. It's like a outside tree is available. It's up to the people if they like to pluck those fruits or not. Parks are available.
You still distribute them to them, yeah.
Yeah. So we gave it, and that's free. But
and what's the if the person doesn't appreciate it, we give them more.
Yeah.
I mean, in the various forms, the holy name, kirtan, giving prasadam, giving book, we give them more. That's I agree with you. That's correct.
Yeah.
Sometimes it says that, you know, like for example, on the Sunday feast, somebody donates for the Sunday feast, and then somebody will say, well, what about asking people for donations for the Sunday feast, even if someone is, you know, sponsored the Sunday feast? Well, it's how you do it, as Mother Mitravinda said. If someone wants to give a donation and then just give them the opportunity, that's purifying for that person too. That's loving exchange, but it's not required. It's not forced. So giving everybody the opportunity to take prasadam, to give a donation if they feel inspired to do that. That's very good. We like that. And the more back and forth it goes, the more advancement a person gets.
I just want to clarify one thing, that when we are saying we means devotees are giving. It's the devotee community who is giving freely prasadam, right?
Well, sometimes, yes.
Because devotees give out of generously to support this cause, and they generously offer, and it is distributed in the form of prasadam or books. So basically, it's a devotee.
And the holy name.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Dadati patigunati guyamakyati prititi bhunkte bhojayate chaiva shadvidham pritilakshanam. These are expressions of love given between the devotees and among devotees. So Prabhupada describes in the purport there that we exchange loving relationships by offering prasad and giving prasad. By somebody giving a donation, we give them a book, and that way that's loving exchange. Okay, next verse.
আত্ম ইচ্ছামৃতে বৃক্ষ সিঁচি নিরন্তর, তাহাতে অসংখ্য ফল বৃক্ষের উপর.
By the transcendental desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, water has been sprinkled all over the tree, and thus there are innumerable fruits of love of Godhead. Good. Purport. God is unlimited, and his desires are also unlimited. This example of unlimited fruits is factually appropriate even within the material context. For with the goodwill of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there can be enough fruits, grains, and other foodstuffs produced so that all the people in the world could not finish them, even if they ate 10 times their capacity. In this material world, there's actually no scarcity of anything but Krishna consciousness. If people become Krishna conscious by the transcendental will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there'll be enough foodstuffs produced so that people will have no economic problems at all. One can very easily understand this fact. The production of fruits and flowers depends not upon our will, but of the supreme will of the personality of Godhead. If he is pleased, he can supply enough fruits, flowers, etc. But if people are atheistic and godless, nature, by his will, restricts the supply of food. For example, in several provinces in India, especially Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and other adjoining states, there is sometimes a great scarcity of foodstuffs due to lack of rainfall. So-called scientists and economists cannot do anything about this. Therefore, to solve all problems, one must seek the goodwill of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by becoming Krishna conscious and worshiping him regularly in devotional service. There's I think you know the verse. Anybody know the verse from Bhagavad Gita about this? I think it's in the 3rd chapter.
Yeah. The cooperation between demigods and the humans, the yajna, they give a necessary supply. Annad bhavanti bhutani.
Yeah, annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhava yagyad bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava. Remember that one, right? All living beings subsist on food grains, which are produced from rain. Rains are produced by what?
Yajna.
By performance of yagya, yeah. And yagya is born from prescribed duties. Yeah, let me read I was going to read the purport to this verse. Let's find it here. I got it here. Okay. The Supreme Lord, who is known as Jagya Purush, or the personal beneficiary of all sacrifices, is the master of all the demigods who serve him as the different limbs of the body serve the whole. Demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna are appointed officers who manage material affairs. And the Vedas direct sacrifices to satisfy these demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air, light, and water sufficiently to produce food grains. When Lord Krishna is worshipped, the demigods, who are different limbs of the Lord, are automatically worshipped. Therefore, there is no separate need to worship the demigods. For this reason, the devotees of the Lord who are in Krishna consciousness offer food to Krishna and then eat, a process which nourishes the body spiritually. A process which nourishes the body spiritually. By such action, not only are past sinful reactions in the body vanquished, but the body becomes immunized to all contamination of material nature. When there's an epidemic disease, an antiseptic vaccine protects a person from the attack of such an epidemic. Similarly, food offered to Lord Krishna and then taken by us makes us sufficiently resistant to material affection. And one who is accustomed to this practice is called, any ideas? What do you think? One who is accustomed to this practice is called?
Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, a devotee of the Lord. Yeah. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness who eats only food offered to Krishna can counteract all reactions of past material infections, which are impediments to the progress of self-realization. On the other hand, one who does not do so continues to increase the volume of sinful action and thus prepares the next body to resemble hogs and dogs to suffer resultant reactions of all sins. The material world is full of contamination, and one who is immunized by accepting prashadam of the Lord is saved from that attack, whereas one who does not do so becomes subjected to contamination. Food grains or vegetables are factually edibles. The human being eats different kinds of food grains, vegetables, fruits, etc., and the animals eat the refuse of the food grains and vegetables, grass, plants, etc. Human beings who are accustomed to eating meat and flesh must also depend on the production of vegetation in order to eat the animals. Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of the field and not on the production of big factories. The field production is due to sufficient rain from the sky, and such rains are controlled by demigods like Indra, sun, moon, etc. And they are all servants of the Lord. The Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. That is the law of nature. Yajna, specifically the Sankirtan Yajna prescribed for this age, must therefore be performed to save us at least from the scarcity of food supply. Questions, comments, additions? No? Okay.
So Prabhupada already mentioned about this epidemic disease, and the antiseptic vaccine protects a person from the attack of such epidemics like COVID and all. So he was knowing that. So when the COVID will come, so that kind of things will be protected by the Ayurvedic vaccine and also.
Yeah, we don't. So yeah, whether someone's has been vaccinated from COVID or unvaccinated, they should be they should get the vaccine of the Krishna Prashadam. Either both sides should be.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, I think that this is so straightforward, but yet we tend to forget, or we tend to, just like it says here, that the scientists and economists, scramble to fix things, and we forget that, God is the supplier and He takes care of everything. We are not. We forget that we are not doing any or acting to fix situations.
Yes, very good. Right. We tend to forget those things often. And when Gargamuni, or the priest of the Yadu dynasty, came to do the name giving ceremony for Krishna and Balaram, you know that? He was welcomed by Nanda Maharaj, and Nanda Maharaj said, we householders, we always forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because we get involved in our duties and we forget. And he's got Lord Krishna crawling in the backyard, and he's forgetting. What to speak of us, right? So, okay. Yeah, we saw the practice of Krishna consciousness means remember. Let's we're doing. Okay. We got a couple more verses, maybe. Let's see.
অতএব সব ফল দেহ যারে তারে খাইয়া হোক লোক অজর অমরে.
Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death. Purport. The Krishna consciousness movement introduced by Lord Chaitanya is extremely important, because one who takes to it becomes eternal, being freed from birth, death, and old age. People do not recognize that the real distresses in life are the four principles of birth, death, old age, and disease. They are so foolish that they resign themselves to these miseries, not knowing the transcendental remedy of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from all misery. But because they are enchanted by the illusory energy, people do not take this movement seriously. Therefore, those who are actually servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must seriously distribute this movement all over the world to render the greatest benefit to human society. Of course, animals and other lower species are not capable of understanding this movement, but if even a small number of living beings take it seriously, by their chanting loudly, all living entities, including even trees, animals, and other lower species, will be benefited. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from Haridas Thakur how he was to benefit living entities other than humans, Srila Haridas Thakur replied that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so potent that if it is chanted loudly, everyone will benefit, including the lower species of life. This was, we'll find that later in the Caitanya Caritamrita, that Lord Chaitanya was lamenting about the living entities remaining in this material world and suffering a life after life after life, and he was concerned. So Haridas Thakur was there. He heard Lord Chaitanya, and so he was. It seems from one standpoint, he was trying to cheer Lord Chaitanya up, and of course it was all enacted by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. But he said, so how will the lower species be delivered? He said, well, there's the chanting, and that when there's loud chanting, the echo of the Sankirtan is the chanting of the immovable objects, like trees, stones, etc. Very interesting. No. Then he said, when Lord Ramchandra was present on earth, everybody from Ayodhya he brought back with him to Vaikuntha. Do you know this? Shri Rama Rameti Rameti Rama Rame Manorame Sahasrana. Yeah, you know this one. He brought all the residents. And when Lord Krishna was present, this is Haridas Thakur, he took the whole universe back to Godhead, he said. So it's not mentioned, but it would seem Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. Similar things would happen. If a Lord Chaitanya is desiring that everyone come back to Godhead, he can make it happen. Statement, questions, comments. It's 8:45. It's 8:45.
One more.
One clarification, Prabhuji, small.
Yes,
Like simply by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can be free from all miseries. So is it on the soul level, Prabhuji? I mean, because we will be always having Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik, and Adhyatmik miseries.
Yes.
So with the body.
Good point. Thank you, Ramshyam Prabhu. It's not that by chanting you will have no disease or no old age, but the soul won't be affected by that. You know, sometimes there's something in the West called the prosperity gospel. Have you heard about this? Where people think, well, if we're very religious, then we'll have all kinds of material amenities. We'll, have a nice house. We'll be rich. We'll win football games and baseball games. Everything will come. But the Lord Krishna's even personal associates, the Pandavas, they had trouble. They went to the forest. For how many years?
13.
Was that
13 years total?
12 years, and the last year was incognito. Yeah, so there are the Lord Krishna's personal associates, the Pandavas. Lord Ramchandra was also in the forest. So from the material standpoint, there will naturally, as you point out, be difficulty. But that difficulty is an impetus for us to remember Krishna. Thank you.
But the difficulties or roadblock, the difficulties that are caused by Maya, that part, Maya often makes it tough for us to. Is it just the? Is that not connected to the material side?
I'm not exactly. What do you? Could you give an example?
I didn't say it correctly. I'm saying that when we have in the material world, when we have problems, is Maya playing a role there as well, or is it just our devotional and spiritual side?
When a devotee is facing or experiences difficulty, there's a couple of things. One is described in Nectar Devotion. A person is the mentality one is encouraged to adopt is, actually, I was supposed to be suffering 100 times more, but so Krishna is so merciful, he's reduced it just to this little bit, so that I to remind me of my position. He's so kind. And then another place, I mean, is Maya involved? Well, it's Krishna's Maya. Krishna works through Maya, but the ultimate worker, the ultimate hand is Krishna. And then Krishna spoke to Yudhishthira Maharaj. He said, when I'm really merciful to someone, I take away everything. Harishe anugrahanami, harishe tad Anugrahinami harishye tadhanam shinai. I take away things from them step by step, if I'm really merciful. So that might be from a physical standpoint, or health standpoint, or because then when you're left with, there's only one person left to depend on. That's Lord Krishna. I don't know if I answered.
You did.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. This is Atulya.
Atulya Harinam Prabhu.
Prabhu, in line to the same question that Mataji asked, my experience has been, it's been a little difficult, not little difficult, it's difficult to practice devotional service sincerely when such difficulties come. Sometimes you get so deep into those, into the situation that it's hard to concentrate on either your chanting or be whatever service. Is there anything you would recommend to help in this situation?
Yes. Come to morning classes. Association with devotees. That's really, really, really important. And Rupa Goswami says, Dadati Pratigrinnati, giving in charity, accepting charitable gifts. Guyamakyati Prichtati, talking about what's going on with confidentially with people you trust. Guyamakyati Bhunkti Bojayate Chaiva, and giving prasad, accepting prasad. Those are especially good ways to associate with devotees that will, the sadvidhim priti lakshana. These things are exchanges of love, and they reinforce or they strengthen your devotional service, your devotional progress.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patita.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brinda ki jai, Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.